Welcome to the chapter 266 review. After the previous banger we just had, this one was even better. There are just a lot of moments in this chapter that are going to be talked about for a while. And not only that, but I believe the fight choreography in this chapter was simply amazing, especially with how Yuji and Sukuna just begin their fight by charging into each other and clashing midair. JJK really sets a final battle atmosphere with this fight here. I think he just knocked it out the water this chapter, this little fight. And I'm so excited to find out how the Shinjuku Showdown concludes next week. And yes, you heard me correct. The Shinjuku Showdown does end next week. I don't know how it's all going to be wrapped up in one chapter, but we're just going to see. Maybe the activation of the merger comes in and things just completely shift to a whole different arc. I really can't give you any guesses because we're supposed to get this super crazy project announcement next week. And it's not like a popularity poll or anything because it's an actual project. Despite this, I say keep your expectations low. Now I'm gonna wrap up the intro. I know what you guys are here for, but hey, if you enjoy content such as this, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And now, let's get into it. So the chapter begins from a completely new perspective. Yuji within Megami's soul actually speaking to him. Megami says to Yuji that's enough. I wanted to create a world where Sumiki would not have to suffer needlessly, or at the very least, preserve our fragile life as much as I possibly could. Eating home-cooked meals, watching sunbeams fall onto our hanged laundry, seeing her off as she walked beside someone like you, Yuji, that would have been true happiness to me. But I've had enough. Yuji, completely understanding Megami's loss, begins to speak about his own. Early on, when my grandpa first got sick with lung cancer, he was offered a rough treatment that would have come with some strong side effects. He turned it down. Maybe he thought his body was strong enough even without the treatment. Every so often I hear about euthanasia, but that didn't seem right. It felt like someone else's choice. Deep down inside, I'd always felt distant, unrelated. I figured it must suck for them, but I'd be fine. Ever since coming to Jujutsu High, I've been flooded with all these awful thoughts, and when I think about this lasting forever, I find myself able to empathize with my grandpa, or anyone faced with a helpless situation. That's why I can't tell you to keep on living. And if you misunderstand why Yuji says this, he says this because he completely understands Megami's loss, his pain, and all the above. And he understands that he can't tell Megami to just continue living and feel better. He wants Megami to come to that decision completely on his own. The fight begins. Sukuna casts Hollow Wicker Basket, and then Yuji and Sukuna prepare themselves. Sukuna thinks to himself. He says that I'd use Gojo's method to reset a burnt out curse technique within a domain, but the risk is too great, especially with the after effects of Unlimited Void persisting. However, in contrast to a domain where one actualizes a mental image, the output required for techniques like Hollow Wicker Basket or a simple domain is little. It allows a sorcerer to buy time until the short hit technique imbued within a domain hits them, but eventually, without fail, they will be overpowered. However, Sukuna is able to supplement that output by maintaining the hand sign even after Hollow Wicker Basket's activation. This allows him to continue fighting without being overpowered within a domain. And as the battle is set, we see geese fly away from the characters, indicating that they have finally made their move. The final battle begins with both Yuji and Sukuna charging toward one another. Sukuna throws a kick that Yuji manages to catch while simultaneously countering with an elbow to that same leg, piercing it. Sukuna then responds by pulling that same leg back and elbowing Yuji, dropping him to the floor. He then follows up with a knee to Yuji's face and a punch right after, sending Yuji face first into the ground. Sukuna's not done yet though. As he follows up on Yuji, Yuji's just flying through the air. He yells out, "Color me surprised." Who would have figured being looked down upon would fill me with such ire, that being pitied would rouse up such hate? What fun will it be for every other human to reap the consequences of your actions? And Yuji just looks back with this very angry face. And this is just more of Sukuna's calm exterior being broken down by Yuji's presence. If you notice, really every single time Yuji's on the page, he is not calm, cool, and collected. He's always shouting out things such as this. We now transition to the moment of Megami's life where he first met Gojo. We see that same scene where Megami turns around and he asks, "What's with that face?" And instead of Gojo being there, it's now Yuji. Yuji says it's just that it'll be so lonely without you, Megumi. And as we have seen Megumi finally make his decision, we see a pile of shadows drag Sukuna into it, and he figures out exactly what's going on. Sukuna then states that his 10 shadows technique stopped functioning after Mahoraga was destroyed, so this has to be Megumi's. Sukuna has figured out that Yuji's dismantles has given Megumi another chance, and soon after this, a fist is darted into his face, sending him flying. And as Yuji has realized what just happened, he takes a moment to pause and briefly smile. He knows that his friend is back. He charges back into Sukuna, pummeling him with a ton of punches, then finishing the combo by kicking the ground and creating a smokescreen. Through that smokescreen, he grabs Sukuna's head, with Sukuna retaliating by grabbing Yuji's head, and they send just a flurry of punches at one another, trying to bring this battle to an end. But the winner of the brawl is Yuji, landing an earth-shattering punch to Sukuna's head, as Sukuna begins to say that his strike have an effect that I can't overcome with reverse curse technique. They'll take Hollow Wicker Basket and shatter it, and Yuji goes in to shatter that Hollow Wicker Basket, but his claws of calamity have shattered. Taking no time to even process it, he goes in for another punch, and Sukuna manages to dodge it, with Yuji noticing that his technique has recovered. Using Gojo's method, he has reset his burnt out technique. Sukuna with no hesitation goes in for his domain expansion, but he pauses, but notices that Yuji is missing 2 of his fingers. We slowly transition to a very hollow corridor, and within the very bottom of this corridor lies a finger of Sukuna's, completely wrapped and tied up. So yo, I gotta say this chapter was an absolute banger. The hands, the desperation brawl where they're just holding each other's heads and going in for the tons of punches. I'm so happy this battle's coming to a close. Not to say that I didn't enjoy every single chapter. I do think the Shinjuku Showdown is one of the best arcs I've read. People are gonna argue otherwise because they just like hating on the most popular successful thing, human nature, but I love the arc. I also have to mention that the way Megumi has been handled throughout this entire arc was not enjoyable to me, but this chapter has changed all of that. And I say this because the way this quote-unquote talk no jutsu was handled was perfect. Actually, I've never seen it handled this good. I don't even think Tokyo Ghoul handled its pep talk as good as this one. The way that Yuji says, I cannot be the one to tell you to come back, like that's not my position because I completely understand you and it'd be unreasonable for me to do so, is a complete step up from where he told Junpei, like, come to Jujutsu Society, we have the answers for you, like just follow me, I'll help you out. There's a lot of character growth in that moment. And again, Megumi being the one to say, I'm going to take his hand rather than Yuji dragging him out it's really good. I like that Gege has given Megumi some agency in this talk no jutsu. It doesn't seem forced because both of the characters are responsible parties, and Megumi is again taking all of this in and understanding what's happening and growing as a person to say, you know what, I have to get up and keep moving forward no matter what happens. The world is just the way it is and I need to accept that, rather than Yuji saying, it's okay bro, we'll figure it out, and Megumi just changing his mind. It shows a lot of character growth for Megumi himself rather than just giving 80% of the credit to Yuji. I will likely come out with a more formal version of this point as its own video because I think that this is like, it changes the game, at least from my perspective. And Gege really beamed in this Yuji Buddha, 6 realms theory kind of thing that was going on. I think at this point we can just say that was a prediction, not a theory. There's also the thing with Yuta and Kenjaku's ability. I'm going to remind you guys every week at this point, do not forget about those 5 minutes. There's something going on there. Yuta even mentioned like, oh, Kenjaku must have done something specific with his ability to keep it activated even when it burns out. Guys, Gege wants us to forget about Kenjaku's ability never being explained. Every other technique in the series has been explained, even Sukuna's full moveset. We're only missing Hiten and Kenjaku's ability. And if the Shinjuku Showdown is to come to a close next week, I think we have something brewing up here. With that said, I'm gonna wrap up the review here. There's not much to talk about until we find out the climax and what's gonna happen from here on out. So I gotta thank you guys for watching all the way through. I always appreciate the love and support, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.